The older black woman on Beale Street did one thing every night that grew her hair past the middle of her back. Not a serum, not a single bottle from the drugstore. One habit, done in the same order for 50 years. Her granddaughter has a shelf full of products and half the length. The thumbnail shows you the tin that started it, the red and gold one that sat on every dresser in Memphis. There is one trick she saved for the very last, the one she never told a soul outside the house. Stay with me. Number 20. The black mother greased the scalp first, then braided it down flat to the head for the whole work week. The red and gold tin of royal crown sat open on the kitchen table in Memphis. She worked a fingertip down each row before the braid went in. Then she plaited it flat to the scalp, close and neat, ends tucked under. The tucked ends meant no strand rubbed loose against a collar or a pillow for 6 days. Greased first, then braided, the hair kept every bit of moisture under the plait. Here's the part the magazines got wrong. The braid had to be loose at the root, not tight. A tight braid pulled the hairline bald at the temple over the years. Loose at the root and tucked at the end, the length came. She wore it down all week and let it grow in the dark. The grease went under the braid. That was the order nobody copied. Number 19. The African-American grandmother gave herself a hot oil treatment with Ultra Sheen long before the salon sold it as a service. The green and gold jar of Ultra Sheen reached black dressers by the early 1970s. She stood a small jar of oil in a cup of boiling water until it ran warm. Then it went on the scalp and down the length, section by section, under a plastic cap. The warm oil swelled the shaft and slipped past the cuticle, where a cold drop only sat on top. 20 minutes under the cap, then a rinse, and the strand came out heavy and soft. The salons charge $40 for this exact service now and call it a deep treatment. She did it at the kitchen sink for the price of the jar. The heat was the trick, not the brand on the lid. Quick pause. One breath only. Everything on this list came from our women, the ones who knew and were never thanked. Your own grandmother was one of them, so stay close and subscribe to the channel. Thank you kindly. Now, back to the countdown. Number 18. The black beautician on 47th Street kept the hot comb off the hair 6 days out of every 7. The cast iron pressing comb heated on the gas burner in the back of the kitchen shop. She pressed the hair only for Sunday morning. 6 days out of 7, it stayed in its own coils, wrapped at night and oiled at the root. The heat touched each strand once a week, not once a day like the impatient ones did. A woman who pressed every single morning watched her ends thin to wisps by the middle of July. The pressing comb broke the bonds in the strand, and bonds break for good when you break them daily. Hers held its full length because the comb spent most of the week cooling on the shelf. Restraint was the whole method. Number 17. The older black woman washed her hair once every 2 weeks and called the daily washing pure foolishness. The white bar of ivory soap sat in the enamel dish at 4 cents a bar. She wet the hair down on the second Saturday, and not a day sooner. The scalp made its own oil across those 14 days, and that oil was the entire point. Stripping it off every morning left the strand parched and the ends brittle as dry grass. The natural sebum traveled down the shaft and sealed the hair from root to tip on its own. Between washes, she ran a little castor oil through the lengths to carry the oil the rest of the way. Clean hair and healthy hair were never the same thing to her. She washed on a schedule, not on a whim. Number 16. Her dark hands braided every strand into 8 tight plaits before bed, every single night. The black mother parted the hair into rows under the lamp in the Harlem bedroom. 8 plaits, ear to ear, fingers moving without looking. The braids stopped the loose strands from rubbing against the pillow through the long night. Friction was the quiet thief in this niche, and the plaits locked the door against it. Loose hair on a cotton case tangled, knotted, and tore itself apart by dawn. The plaited hair came down in the morning stretched, defined, and ready with no heat at all. She taught the girls to braid on a doll before they ever braided their own heads. The bedtime braid was protection, not a style. Number 15. The women of Beale Street fed the hair from the supper plate long before they fed it from any jar. The cast iron skillet held collard greens cooked down slow with the ham hock in the Memphis kitchen. She ate the greens and then drank the dark pot liquor straight from the bottom of the pot. The iron in that liquid built the red blood that carried oxygen up to every follicle. Liver came to the table every single Thursday, 4 ounces on the 9-inch plate. The protein in the beans and the greens became the very brick the strand was built from. Hair grows from the root, and the root eats only what the body eats first. No grease on earth feeds a follicle that the blood is starving. She fed it from the inside and let the tins do the rest. Stay with me here, because the next one is where the real length came from. Everything so far was the scalp and the wash. What the older black woman did next is the part her granddaughter never learned. And it is the reason a woman of 70 on Beale Street had a braid thicker than a girl of 20. The drugstore could not bottle it then and cannot bottle it now. Keep counting down with me. Number 14. The black woman warmed her oil in a small pot on the stove before it ever touched her head. The amber bottle of castor oil sat beside the percolator in the New Orleans kitchen. She poured an inch into the little pan and warmed it gently, never hot enough to burn. The warm oil opened the cuticle and slipped down into the shaft where cold oil only ever sat on the surface. A clean towel wrapped the whole head for a full 20 minutes after. The heat drove the oil into the cortex of the strand where the moisture was actually needed. The girl sat between her knees and waited while the warm oil sank in, section by section. Cold oil greased the hair, but warm oil fed it. The little pot made all the difference. Number 13. The black mother detangled from the ends upward and never once dragged the comb down from the root. The wide-toothed comb of yellow bone hung on a nail by the mirror in the Detroit flat. Her dark hands started at the very ends of the hair. She worked up 1 inch at a time, loosening each knot with her fingers before the comb went near it. Ripping the comb down from the root snapped the strand and tore the follicle half loose. Most breakage in this niche was made by the hand, not by the years. From the bottom up, the tangle came free and the hair stayed on the head where it belonged. She called the comb a tool of patience, not a tool of war. The ends came first, always. Number 12. The women of Orange Mound wore one set of twists for 3 full weeks and kept their hands out of them. The orange tin of Murray's pomade sat on the vanity in the Memphis flat. She set the twists one time, and then she left them be. Every touch of a restless hand was one more chance for a strand to break or pull. 3 weeks of rest meant 3 weeks with no friction, no combing, and no tension at the root. The women who fussed and restyled daily lost their length an inch at a time. Hers grew quietly under the twists, where no hand could reach it. The less the hair was handled, the less the hair was harmed. She said it and trusted it. Number 11. The black beautician rinsed the hair in cooled black tea and swore it darkened the grays, and held the shed strand to the head. A pot of black tea cooled on the stove in the Treem kitchen. She poured the dark brew through the hair as the last rinse on wash day. The tannin in the tea tightened the cuticle and slowed the daily shedding at the root. The same tea darkened the few grays at her temple without a drop of dye from any store. 5 minutes soaking, then no rinse out, just a wrap in the silk. A box of dye cost real money she would not spend when the teapot did it for pennies. The shed slowed, and the strand held, and the gray went quiet. The kitchen pot beat the drugstore shelf again. Number 10. The African-American grandmother used the cold mayonnaise straight from the jar as a deep treatment and felt no shame in it at all. The glass jar of mayonnaise sat cold in the icebox on 4th Avenue in Birmingham. She spread it thick from the root all the way to the ends. The oil and the egg in it softened the strand, while the protein gripped every weak and worn spot. A plastic cap trapped the warmth off the kitchen radiator for a full half hour. She could not spare the money for the beauty parlor, so the icebox did the parlor's work. The fat sealed the moisture in, and the protein patched the damage in one single treatment. The strand came out soft and shining, and the split ends finally stopped spreading. Professional hair came out of a 5-cent jar. Number 9. Her dark hands trimmed her ends by the moon, and would not cut on a waning night for anything. The black mother held the scissors beside the open almanac on the kitchen table in Shaw. She read the page and waited for the waxing moon to climb. A split end, once it starts, runs straight up the strand and costs a woman her hard-won inches. Cutting the dead quarter-inch on time saved every healthy inch above it. The almanac guided the planting and the harvest for 100 years, and she saw no reason the hair was any different. Whether the moon turned the strand or not, the trimming on a fixed schedule surely did. She cut the dying quarter-inch to save the living foot. The blade served the length. Number 8. The older black woman tied her hair in a silk scarf every single night and never once slept on bare cotton. The silk scarf lay folded over the bedpost in the Lenox Avenue room. She wrapped the hair smooth before the lamp ever went out. Cotton drank the moisture right out of the strand and grabbed at the hair until it snapped in the dark. The silk let every strand slide instead of catch and pull. The oils and the grease she had worked in all evening stayed locked in the hair until morning. A satin pillowcase did the same quiet work for the women who could afford one. The scarf was a guardian that worked the whole night while the body rested. Bare cotton was the enemy of every inch. Number 7. The black woman laid her edges with a soft brush and a single dab of pomade, and never once with tension. The boar bristle brush lay beside the mirror on Striver's row. A small dab of Dixie Peach from the round tin touched the fine hair at the temple. She laid the edges down soft and slow, no hard pulling, and no tight part dragging the skin. A tight style pulled the fine baby hairs clean out at the hairline, and they did not come back. The fragile edge was the first place a woman lost her hair and the last place it ever returned. Soft hands at the temple meant the edge stayed full past sextimicity. She brushed it. She never yanked it. Gentleness kept the hairline whole. Number 6. The women of Black Bottom rinsed the hair in soft rainwater caught in a barrel by the back porch. The tin barrel stood under the gutter on the Detroit porch. She caught the soft rain through the season and saved it for the next wash day. Hard tap water left a chalky mineral film that dulled the strand and blocked the moisture from getting in. The rainwater carried none of that and rinsed the hair slick and clean. The strand drank the oil far better the morning after a rainwater rinse. She set 3 buckets out the moment the sky darkened and stored the water for days. The water from the heavens cost her nothing and softened everything. Free water beat hard water every wash. Number 5. The black mother used Madam C.J. Walker's own grease and steel comb exactly the way the maker meant them to be used. The tin of Walker's wonderful hair grower sat on the shelf in the sweet Auburn parlor in Atlanta. She greased the scalp first and only then warmed the steel comb on a low flame. The grease shielded the strand, and the gentle weekly heat smoothed it without scorching it to ash. This was a full system a black woman built and sold to more than 1 million black women across the country. The method was made by someone who knew this exact hair from her own head. The growth came because the maker understood the hair she was selling to. She followed the system as it was written. The hair answered the method. Number 4. The women of Paradise Valley kept Dixie Peach moving through the lengths between every single wash. The round tin of Dixie Peach pomade sat on the edge of the bathroom sink in the Detroit flat. She ran a fingertip through the mid-lengths every other day, light and even. The pomade held the water locked in the strand across the full 2 weeks between washes. Dry hair snapped at the lightest tug, but oiled hair bent and sprang back. The cuticle stayed flat and sealed instead of lifting and losing its moisture to the air. The length stayed soft and pliable from one wash day to the next. The ends that should have split simply held on. A dab every other day kept the whole strand alive. Number 3. The African-American grandmother knew that worry pulled the hair out faster than any comb ever could. Her deep brown skin caught the lamplight on the front porch in Congo Square. She kept her troubles off her body and her hands away from her head when grief came knocking. Hard stress sheds the strand at the root by the 100, and no grease on earth stops that fall. She prayed the worry out and set the heavy burden down where she could. The women who carried their tension in their bodies watched it come out in the comb. A calm spirit held the hair right where the worry would have stolen it. She guarded her peace the way she guarded her edges. The mind fed the follicle too. Number 2. The black mother followed the full system Annie Turnbow Malone built before a single one of these brands ever existed. The Poro tin sat on the dresser in the Bronzeville flat, sold by a black woman since 1902. She used the grease and the press as one connected method, never as separate scattered steps. The order was the whole thing. The scalp tended first, and the strand finished last. This was a black woman teaching black women how to grow the hair they actually had on their heads. Annie Turnbow Malone built it before Walker and trained the women who carried it forward. The growth came from the method, and the method came from one of our very own. She did not guess. She followed a system with a maker. The order made the hair. Number 1. The oldest black woman on the whole block grew her hair the longest, and she touched it the least of anyone alive. The tin of royal crown sat unopened most weeks on her dresser in Bronzeville. She oiled the scalp, sealed the ends, wrapped the silk, and then she simply left the hair alone. Whole days passed with no comb, no press, no fussing, and no restless fingers. The hair on the constantly handled head broke off short at the shoulder year after year. Hers fell past the middle of her back for one plain reason. She trusted it and let it be. Every product on this list mattered less than the hand that stayed away from the head. The drugstore could never bottle the one thing that truly grew it. Patience was the whole answer, and patience never cost a dime. The older black woman rose slow from the chair on Auburn Avenue, capped the red and gold tin, and set it back on the dresser. The hair fell long and full down her back in the lamplight, the way it had for 50 straight years. She had bought no serum and chased no trend down any aisle. The tin, the comb, the silk scarf, and the patience were the whole of it from start to finish. The women who came after her carried the same 4 things forward in their own kitchens. What is the one tin your grandmother kept on the back of her dresser that you can still see the moment you close your eyes? Tell me in the comments below. I read every single one of them. Thank you for sitting with these women today. It means far more than you know. If this brought even one of them back to you, tap that like and subscribe so the next one finds its way to you. Until then, take good care of your crown.